Before we get to next gen, I wanted to share this idea that a patron asked, like, I thought it was a good idea, but also I wanted to do it anyway. What are my 10 favorite games this generation? And this does not include Nintendo stuff, because Nintendo I just kind of feel like is separate, plus they came like 3 years after, so they're gonna, you know, keep going for another 3 years after the start. And admittedly, there are entries on here that some might find a little bit unfair. So make sure you stick around to the honorable mentions, because if you do think they're unfair, then I will like throw in the honorable mentions that is, you know, like, okay, he would have put those ones in instead. But leave me what your favorite games of this generation were for both these systems in the comments down below. And let's get started with what my number 10 was. Even though the Metal Gear franchise is not new this generation, it was for me, since it was the first time I got to play all of the games, and I got to wrap all of them up with the final entry, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. It's mostly the gameplay that this game makes it onto this list. There is just so much to do in this open world, different environments, weather hazards, and how all these various conditions can affect whatever your mission you're trying to do. And there's literally just endless ways of accomplishing missions sometimes. If you want to go guns blazing, you can. And if you want to go stealth, you can. And there's so many ways of going about that you can choose to do. I also love the settlement mechanic that kind of gave you a reason to keep playing the game, that can lead to honestly endless hours as you continuously upgrade your base, recruit new soldiers. And while yes, the story wasn't exactly the conclusion I wanted from the franchise, it still was filled with a lot of Easter eggs and references, and kind of tying up any loose ends that you still had after the great conclusion that was Metal Gear Solid 4. Metal Gear Solid 5 is absolutely spectacular, and it is one of the greatest espionage games I have ever played. The phrase I always summed up Battlefield 1 as is beautiful chaos. I've never played a game in my life that I actually saw the map completely get destroyed and altered and changed by the sheer magnitude of the battle happening between the players that are on it. The Battlefield franchise is all about taking place in numerous periods in time of just huge wars unfolding, but Battlefield 1 takes place in literally World War I, which is a period that we rarely or maybe have ever even seen in a game get covered. And that actually is a period that is absolutely messy and brutal and horrific, with how short range and sloppy the weapons get, the detail shown in all the weapons getting muddy. Not to mention Battlefield 1 has one of the best campaigns in the Battlefield franchise, being through its war stories. While there is things to grind for in Battlefield 1, I just like to play the game for purely being in the absolute chaos that is its war.
I can't even stand up without taking any damage.
Tell me where she went and I'll think about letting you go. We could have killed you. Maybe you should have.
The Last of Us Part 2 probably had the most pressure a sequel has ever had in the gaming industry, with the first game knocking it out of the park with critics and fans. And for me, the sequel did just that by being nearly on par with the first entry, if not better in some ways. The gameplay is absolutely spectacular, being just go about it however you want. If you want to be stealthful, if you want to be setting traps, if you want to be aggressive, you can do that, and it has so much adjustment in the difficulty, which is spectacular. And the game is one of the most visually impressive this entire generation. But not just all that, the story is one that is truly unlike any I have played. It really makes you feel that there is no simple good or bad in this world. Just like the first game, everybody's basically bad, but it's about understanding all sides of the spectrum and how really everybody just has different ways of life and the repercussions of certain actions that happened in the first game.
I wish things were different. Ellie! But they ain't.
I absolutely adored The Last of Us Part 2, and honestly, it is gonna be up there and one of the best narratives I have ever played in a game.
Everything has clearly gotten out of hand now, yes. But it was worth the risk, I assure you.
Doom 2016 is absolutely metal and fun as hell. I really struggled between Doom Eternal and 2016, and honestly, either of them could be at this spot. But I'm just saying Doom 2016 because for its time, it really was such a metal and just kick-ass fun game. And honestly, I do kind of appreciate the art direction in Doom 2016 just a hair more. But honestly, the gameplay is the reason this is on the list. The gameplay is just super fun, hardcore. I keep using that word because that's just the way to phrase this game. It's all about killing demons and going on a journey through Mars and hell to potentially save the world, and just killing a ton of demons while you're at it and feeling like you are the man to be feared by hell itself. Doom Eternal does this equally as well. I just personally didn't care as much for the platforming, but either one of these entries makes it at this spot. But for now, I'm gonna put Doom 2016 as one hell of a good time.
Our duty is to protect humanity, whatever the cost.
Halo Master Chief Collection may be comprised of a lot of previous gen games. However, the way it's all assembled, as well as new features added that weren't in the original titles, updated graphics, new anniversary editions, there's just so much that were not in their original titles that I felt compelled to not only say it's eligible for this list, but to put it on the list. You have 6 great games for the price of 1, and tons of multiplayers interjected with each other. These campaigns, yes, existed back in the day, but their multiplayer has just been added so many new modes and features that weren't in their originals, like Halo 3, something that had so many great features, but its Forge mode in particular, getting so many new additions that, like phased objects that you couldn't do in the original games. ODST never had a firefight in its previous game, so you could never experience the game like that. New weapon skins, armor, and even some weapons making it into games that were never in there before. Even crossplay eventually becoming a thing, and custom games browser. I have dabbled into collections before, but never have I experienced one like Halo Master Chief Collection.
And see how our faith has been rewarded.
If you don't think this game is eligible, I understand. Stick around for the honorable mentions if you do, but for now, I can't argue the immense value that comes with this collection, all the new features added that weren't in their previous generation, and even some new additions that we have never seen before. Here we have a game that I cannot stop listening to its soundtrack literally every single day, Outer Wilds. A game that is all about discovery, and truly the more blind you go into this, the more spectacular it is, and I am just still left thinking about. This is an incredibly small scale and indie title in comparison to all the previous games I mentioned. Like, why else would I put it on this list above those things if it didn't impress me that hard? I don't want to say too much about this game because, again, the more blind you go into it, the better it is. But I'll tell you, just go around this solar system looking for new discoveries and trying to figure out what is going on in this universe. Why is this happening? Where are the previous inhabitants from and where did they go? There's just so much mystery to this solar system that you are going to freely go around as this astronaut-like explorer and just be filled with so many eureka moments. Outer Wilds is the one game I have played that cannot be replayed. It is literally a one-time playthrough for a reason, and that is why I am just constantly missing it.
You're good, Dark Knight. Even better than I remember. It's gonna make it even more satisfying when I kill you.
Batman Arkham Knight gives you a pleasure that no other game can give you, and that is being the Batman in every way, shape, and form, in the truest of Gotham City there is, with the Batmobile. There's a really compelling story in this go-around as well, as Batman tries to take on the Arkham Knight and Scarecrow, from taking over Gotham City as a whole as you wage basically a one-man war against so much crime happening in Gotham City in one of the most gorgeous games for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, hands down. This game still holds up today. Rocksteady puts so much thought into the combat and it having so many different variations and styles that you can do. The stealth is so satisfying when you pull it off. The Batmobile just flies like a dream on the streets. And I would say Batman Arkham Knight also has one of the most compelling post games I have ever played in a game. And for the Arkham trilogy, it is one hell of a finale.
Cornered you. Done what no one else could. All these years, all your enemies.
You want to make real money? Dirty little secret for you. It's in arms.
While GTA 5 was released at the tail end of the PS3 and 360 era, GTA Online is what really got truly enhanced and completely fleshed out this generation. While the game existed back in 2015, that's when it stopped getting updates for the 360 and PS3, as the game continuously added all the more things like numerous heists, new vehicles, new missions, new cutscenes, new characters, enhancing the visuals, of course, different styles of multiplayer, and adding more players to the overall map. Rockstar just continuously updated this game with so much content that I just could not stop playing. Its NPCs have hilarious dialogue, there's so many different kinds of locations to go to, various businesses to run, like something at your very own airport, a biker business, or even like a military bunker. And that's just in free roam. I'm not even talking about the multiplayer options that they have.
Like this. Are you with me?
While GTA 5 is a 2013 release for previous gen, I consider GTA Online a completely different entity, and that is why it has that separate title. Now, you might have thought GTA Online and Master Chief Collection were kind of like, oh, they might not count or whatever, because they started on previous and then kind of went into this one. If you feel that way, well, you'll like these honorable mentions being, you know, these are some games I would have put in there instead, being Kingdom Hearts 3, you know, like I debated about putting that game in this list, but I just didn't have, I don't know, I still love it. The world design for the levels in that game is freaking insane, and the gummy ship, blah, blah, like, it really does have a lot of things as a Kingdom Hearts fan I freaking loved. It might sound insane to say Fall Guys, but I'm telling you what, I love Fall Guys, I just do. It is a game that I don't picture myself getting tired of anytime soon. It's just so colorful and really is like, it's probably my favorite battle royale there is out there. And also Marvel's Spider-Man. Marvel's Spider-Man for the PS4 was a spectacular game, and it just kind of gave me the same feels as the Arkham Knight, where I get to actually be Spider-Man, a very veteran version of Spider-Man, and get to go around this wonderfully constructed New York and doing things that Spider-Man would do. Like, it's just a phenomenal game. I love Spider-Man. But let's get to my two favorite games of this generation, with number 2 being You'd think after so many big and fancy AAA entries on this list, I'd have something else up here, but nope. Undertale is absolutely a masterpiece. Undertale just has absolute creative freedom screaming from every single moment you play in the game. Toby Fox, as the creator, had his own hands on his music, had his own hands on the writing, had his own hands on all the characters, on the direction. Everything from this game truly screams creative freedom and absolute quirkiness with all of its characters, and even deep emotional moments from all the characters. That just is a gift that keeps on giving as you go through it. And while the gameplay looks super duper simple and very basic, it actually makes you rethink how RPGs and turn-based combat fighting monsters and everything should be thought about. It actually does something that no other game has done before, which is to really listen to these characters and think about how all these creatures are really feeling. I've never played a game like Undertale in my entire life, and there's so much about it that I could just do an entire long-ass video essay about, but for now, I will tell you that Undertale is the greatest indie game I have ever played in my life because it defines the indie genre.
What about loyalty to everything?
You've been loyal. You know, all that ever mattered to me was loyalty. It's all I knew. It's all I ever believed in.
How did Rockstar make Red Dead Redemption 2? This is a game that should not exist today at all, with the amount of detail and work that Rockstar put into the most alive world I have ever seen in a video game. The animations of the characters are some of the most organic I have ever seen. The music is so damn hauntingly beautiful. The combat feels incredibly real and suspenseful. And while the game has a really slow mountain to climb at the very beginning of it, when you get to that peak, it is an absolutely insane view. It starts off really slow, but there's purposeful reason for that as you get to know this cast of characters. This is truly a tragic story, and it is one of the most heartfelt stories I have ever played in a video game that really made me question, is this a video game?
I guess I'm afraid.
So many likable characters brought to life truly add to the world that is insanely detailed. Coming back later on in the game or certain times of day, you will see certain things that you just didn't think could happen. Rockstar just filled this world with so many random events and encounters that truly make you feel like, just what am I going to run into today? And is this even part of the story? There comes a point that you don't even care because you just want to keep going through it and seeing what you'll find next. The main reason I have to put Red Dead Redemption 2 at the top of this list is because I just don't feel like it is a game from this generation. It's a game that's from a few years down the road that we didn't deserve or could comprehend for its time. It was truly hurtful to leave some games not only off this list, but also to realize there's a lot that I actually haven't played. But it was still fun to make this and would love to know what your favorite games were of this generation in the comments down below. And if you want a fellow gamer that also enjoys anime, by the way, and you do too, then hey, why not? Let's get to know each other, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, we'll have some more fun conversations in the future. So check out more down below, and thanks for watching.